Welcome back to episode 23 of the Roll the Tape Sports Podcast. I'm Jacksen White alongside
Aidan McNally
and Jalen McKissick.
And yes, today is the final in-studio episode of the Roll the Tape Podcast. Starting next week, we'll be doing Zoom podcast, so
face
you guys
cams.
get to see our face reveal,
face reveal,
and everything like that. So look on the lookout for that. Obviously, episodes will still come out every Thursday. But today we're going to be talking about the NFL Mock Draft Special. That's what the episode is titled. Obviously, the NFL Draft will be shortly after this episode is posted. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 24th, but this will be up on the 25th. So if any trades happen in between now and then, you understand why. But NFL Mock Draft, and also we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs as round one is underway, and not a lot of a domination, you should say, by all the home teams. We'll talk about that and more.
And of course, we have some more start bench cuts as always.
Make sure to follow us at Roll the Tape Sports, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Also, go check out the TikTok. Our views have been kind of low lately. Might have been shadow banned and
I don't know
whatnot.
what's going on.
I don't know what's going on either, but
It's
go check it out. Those are high quality videos that we put a lot of effort into, and it'll be really nice if you go see them, like them, share them, all that good stuff.
Yeah, share every video you see. It helps us grow, and who doesn't want to help out a small creator like us?
Exactly.
You know? But just like that, I think it's time to roll the tape and get right into it. Episode 23, Michael Jordan edition, you could say. The GOAT?
Or LeBron.
LeBron?
Or
Michael?
LeBron.
Did we get into that? Not right now. Mock Draft Special. Let's get right into it. Aidan, you're on the clock with your favorite team, the Chicago Bears. Who do you got?
Well, this is obviously, the unanimous number one pick.
Drake May.
It's obviously going to be Michael Penix Jr. I'm just kidding. It's going to be Caleb Williams. I think he is probably the clear-cut first overall pick in this draft. The Chicago Bears obviously need a quarterback after trading Fields a couple months ago, maybe last month. So Caleb Williams, hard to debate any quarterback or any player over him going at number one. So Caleb Williams is on his way to Chicago.
And number 2, the Washington Commanders are going to take Jaden Daniels. I think him and Drake May are very close in terms of, arm talent. But in terms of running talent, Jaden Daniels clears Drake May. I think that running upside is going to help him in the long run. So that's why I have Jaden Daniels going at 2.
Yeah, well, I think quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2, 3 in this draft. New England, they need a quarterback. They just traded away Mac Jones. And I think the best guy available is Drake May. He fits the system in New England. And I think the Patriots now have their quarterback after pick 3.
Mac Jones is on the Jags now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I forgot about that.
It's kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
Yeah. With the number 4 pick, we have Arizona here. I do think Arizona will keep this pick. I know a lot of speculations going around that a team like the Raiders or Minnesota might trade up and take a guy like J.J. McCarthy, 4th overall. But if Arizona does keep this pick, which I assume they do, I think they will go with the generational talent, Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's probably one of the greatest wide receiver prospects ever. And I think he's going to make his way over to Arizona because Arizona, lost Hollywood Brown. Didn't have any depth behind him anyway. So Marvin Harrison Jr., perfect fit to give Kyler Murray some more weapons.
And number 5, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. They have no weapons. So you need to go get your star quarterback some weapons. And I think the next best skill position player on this list is Malik Neighbors. He's really good, really fast, really versatile, can play him anywhere.
Probably the most explosive player in this draft.
Yeah.
Probably. And I really think he'll pair well with Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh? I always get him confused. And Jim Harbaugh down there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so pick 6, the New York Giants. I could see a world where they trade this pick. I think they can get value because I think this Giants team needs a lot of talent, not just upfront talent. But if they keep the pick, I do see them going offense, and most likely going to be receiver. Give me Rome Odunze to go to the Giants. So the Giants, to me, don't even have a receiver one in my mind.
No.
And who knows if they have a tight end next year as well, as Darren Waller's having some issues with himself. So the Giants, they need offense. And I don't think there's a quarterback that's left that can go as early as 6. So give me Rome Odunze to get off the board at pick 6.
Next on the clock is Tennessee. Tennessee Titans, one of the most interesting teams in the draft. They made some huge splashes over the offseason, trading for L'Jarius Sneed, picking up Chidobe Awuzie, picking up Calvin Ridley. And I think Will Levis, he is here to stay, at least for this season. You need to get him protection. I'm pretty sure I had the Titans picking this player in the last mock draft we did a few episodes ago. It's going to be Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Probably the one of the best prospects period in this draft, not just for a tackle. Joe Alt going to be paired perfectly right there with Peter Skoronski on that left side of the offensive line with that first round pick last year that Tennessee took with Skoronski. So that makes the most sense if you're Tennessee.
For the Atlanta Falcons at 8, this is a defense that's already very talented and very young. And I think they want to add to that. They want to bolster this defensive line who wasn't the best last year but had some talent. I think they go edge rusher Dallas Turner out of Alabama right here. He is really, I think, the best edge rusher in this class. Not by far, but I think he edges out Latu and Jared Verse by just a little bit. And I think he'll really add some value and some good edge rusher QB pressures to that Atlanta Falcons defense.
Yeah, and pick 9, the Bears also have this pick. This is their own pick. And, they went quarterback with their first selection. Aidan picked that, and I think they're going to go defense with their second selection. Give me I would say, the third best or second best defensive player in this draft. To me, Brian Murphy going to the Bears at 9.
I would actually, if I had that 9th overall pick, that's exactly who I would pick as
Brian
a Bears
Murphy?
fan. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Caused some destruction up there on that defensive line with Montez Sweat. The Jets. This is an interesting team. New York Jets here at 10. They need a lot. I think offensive line, they really addressed that in the offseason so far, signing Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. I think defensive line with Quinnen Williams is pretty much set there. So it's a little weird. I think in reality, I do think the Jets trade away this pick. But if we're talking what they're going to do right now, I think they probably go Latu. If you're the Jets, they just let Bryce Huff walk. He's going to be playing for the Eagles next season. I think he's a great replacement out of UCLA to fill in that role that Bryce Huff was last year, and a guy that you'd want on your defense, especially with how high-powered that Jets offense is now. He's going to add a lot of value on that defense for the Jets, looking to contend in the playoffs this next season.
At number 11, the Minnesota Vikings. I really think that they'll trade up for this guy. I think they'll try and conversate with either the Chargers or the Cardinals to get up to 4 or 5 to pick this guy. Give me J.J. McCarthy. I think J.J. McCarthy really fits this system well.
Why would they trade up if they can get him at 11?
Well, he might not be there at 11. Other teams could probably trade up. Like, I know Vegas, maybe.
Because I would say, I would agree with you, McCarthy going there. But I could say that almost everyone, these next few teams from Minnesota all the way down to New Orleans, could pick McCarthy. I think all 4 of those teams, Minnesota, Denver, the Raiders, or New Orleans, could pick him.
Which is why I also think that they should trade up and go get him just to make sure.
I think, that's what I think J.J. McCarthy is probably going to be the most interesting, where will he land out of the draft, because I don't think J.J. McCarthy falls to 11 in that Vikings, their original spot. Like you said, Vikings, Broncos, Raiders, they all pick in a row, like consecutively. Those are all 3 teams that could probably swing at trading up in the top 10 for JJ. So I don't think JJ McCarthy falls to 11 for the Vikings. I think to get their guy, you're probably going to have to trade up top 10, maybe even top 5.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Okay, so pick 12. McCarthy's not going to be there, so Denver has a chance to make a swing. They did just trade for the guy, Zach Wilson, a few days ago. So, hey, you never know what's going to happen there. But I don't know. A part of me wants to go quarterback in Denver because they need it bad. But I think the top quarterbacks have already been selected. Michael Penix is the only guy who I could say is first-round grade for me. But I think it's too early for him. I think you could honestly get him later. This is a tough pick because Denver does need a lot. But one thing they did do was trade away a lot. Do I go receiver here? I don't know what to go for Denver. They need receiver, and they need offensive line a little bit. But defense is big. Yeah, I'm going to go corner. I think I'm going to go Mitchell from Toledo going to Denver.
Mitchell.
They need a cornerback. And I think it's just simple as that. Their defense at times was really bad last year. And I think quarterback's not on the board for them unless they trade up. So I'm going to take Mitchell out of Toledo.
So next pick with the Las Vegas Raiders, they're sitting here at 13. They need a lot. They lost Josh Jacobs in the offseason. They just signed Gardner Minshew. I think they're going to write it out with either him or Aidan O'Connell at quarterback. This offensive line, probably a bottom 5 offensive line in the league.
Bad.
Outside of maybe Colton Miller, their offensive line is all scrubs. Absolutely nothing to account for. And for that reason, I'm going to go with the Big Ten guy out of Penn State, Olu Fashanu. I think this is a guy that can go as high as top 5 or as low as top 20. I think the Raiders right here, he's going to be a very good young tackle to set up there for the next few years, developing him. He's a perfect fit for whatever quarterback they decide to go with. You have Colton Miller on that left tackle. Now you have Olu Fashanu on that right tackle. Whatever quarterback steps into this role in the future is going to step into a very good protected offensive line if they go with Olu Fashanu.
You know what? I like that route. Number 14 right here, I like the tackle route that Aidan was going with. I'm going to take a tackle, Troy, I'm forgetting his last name.
Fatugalu?
No. Out of Washington.
Troy.
I think it's Fatanu.
Troy Fatanu.
Troy Fatanu out of Washington.
So you took the Penn State tackle, and you're
taking
taking
the
the
Washington
Washington tackle. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
I really think that I think Derek Carr is still the answer for at least now in New Orleans. So I don't think they take a quarterback here. They could go wide receiver to pair somebody up with Chris Olave, but I think that they really do need just a little bit more help. Their O-line's getting older. I think that this will come in, stabilize it for a couple more years. He's been really good in college. I think he'll continue to do that in the NFL.
Just a quick reminder here, Brock Bowers has not been taken yet. He's a guy that is projected to go top 10 in a lot of drafts. He's still on the board for us here.
Well, pick 15, the Indianapolis Colts are going to take Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
One thing about all the dynasties is if you look in the league, what has every dynasty had recently in the league? They've had an elite tight end. And the Colts are a team I think could be on the verge of being a dynasty if they just get a few more pieces in the right spot. They're very young, and they seem to have their quarterback in place. They seem to have at least a top receiver in place, and their offensive line is good. Of course, they have Jonathan Taylor. And I think Brock Bowers would just make this offense so much more explosive because the Colts will now have Bowers coming in to be the tight end 1. And people forget they also have a backup tight end, Jelani Woods, who had a phenomenal rookie season and missed all of last year. So I think if the Colts can go out and get Bowers, their offense will become, I think, top 5 next year if Richardson can stay healthy. Give me Bowers to the Colts.
The Seahawks, I love the position they're in because it's really perfect what the situation they're in. A lot of good team needs here at this number 16 spot. One spot that I think they need to bolster up on is their pass rush. Yes, they have Leonard Williams. Outside of that, they really don't have much, and for that reason, they're going to get Jared Verse out of Florida State. They're going to form a duo, Jared Verse and Leonard Williams, for the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, last year they went with Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois at number 5. I think defense is the issue and was the issue for the Seahawks this year. Geno Smith was good enough, just the defense was not up to par or as good as they expected. So Jared Verse out of Florida State, for me, is going to make his way to Seattle.
As the Jaguars GM for this one pick, I am very upset that you took Jared Verse right in front of me because he was about to be my next pick. So I have to go with my backup option, who will be Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. He, I think, is the second best corner besides Quinyon Mitchell in this draft. Jaguars have a pretty solid defense, but their DBs, they can be pretty shaky at times. I think Terrion Arnold will come in and really solidify that lineup.
Yeah, and now going to the Bengals, a pick 18. Obviously, kind of a disappointing season for them last year. Joe Burrow going out, but their offense doesn't necessarily worry me as much as they can. I do see them going after a running back, probably in the second round. But right now, I think it's a little too early to do that. So I'm going to have them take a defensive lineman here, Jazon Newton from Illinois. He's ranked as one of the best D linemen in this draft. To me, I would say he's the second best interior defensive lineman. And one thing the Bengals need is a D line. Mm-hmm. I mean, their D line was pretty bad last year. So if they can come in and get Newton and possibly go and get a running back or something like that in the second round, The Bengals, I think, will be back on top of the division next season.
For number 19, pick number 19 here, we have the LA Rams.
Cooper DeJean.
This is a very interesting spot if you're LA. I really like Amarius Mims out of Georgia for the Rams. I think he's a great pickup. Last year, we really felt the absence of Andrew Whitworth after he retired. This past year, and I think the year before that, he also was retired too. This offensive line has been bad. Amarius Mims, probably the best tackle still left on the board here. This is a very deep tackle draft. You got to take advantage of that if you're LA. So Amarius Mims over to the Rams at number 19 is what I'm going to go with.
For me, with the Steelers at 20, there's a lot of different routes they can go here. They do need some offensive line help. They need some wide receiver help. But one thing they do need is corner help. And Cooper DeJean is sitting right here
yes, sir.
in front of my face. He can play corner. He can play safety. He can kick return, punt return.
He can do it all.
He can really do it all. And I think that he won't fit in great with Steelers, but I think he'll be a good addition to the team because he can play so many different positions.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like? It's like a Taysom Hill, but a cornerback.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. But now going to the Dolphins, I don't know. I kind of am a little lost where to go with this because the Dolphins kind of confuse me a tad because their offense is really high-powered. But I do think they could use another offensive lineman. The tackle's a big need for them, but their defense is really bad. But looking at this draft right now, a very offensive-heavy draft, I'm going to go J.C. Latham out of Alabama, the tackle, to the Dolphins. Even though I think they could go defense there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Tackle besides the left side was pretty rough last season for them. And if they can keep Tua standing straight up, it's always led to a few good things over there in Miami. So give me Latham from Alabama going to the Dolphins.
So we have the Philadelphia Eagles here at number 22. I think one of the biggest issues with them later in the season was their pass defense. And for that reason, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. I really like Nate Wiggins. I think Nate Wiggins will make his way to the Eagles in this mock draft. Just like the tackles in this draft, this cornerback room or cornerback class in this draft is as deep as it gets. Nate Wiggins, certainly a first-round cornerback in this draft, and you could say he's a top 3 cornerback in any other draft. So I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins in at number 22 for the Philadelphia Eagles.
And at number 23, I'm going to go with I'm going to keep the cornerback route. You're right. This cornerback class is really, really deep. And there was one guy that was projected to go as high as top 15, but it's kind of falling down on draft boards. Give me Kool-Aid McKinstry. Yep. Give me Kool-Aid McKinstry. With a name like that, you can't fail in the NFL. You can't fail.
Yeah, Kool-Aid McKinstry is a pretty cool name. I remember drafting him a long time ago in Madden mock drafts, like just playing Madden a long time ago. I always just picked him because of his name.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who a few years ago, even last year, was at one point projected to be the top defensive player in this draft. Kind of fell back a little bit, but still a solid cornerback there. Now we go to the Dallas Cowboys. Is it their year? I don't know. But one thing I do know they need, and I'm kind of scared for them to have next year, they don't have a single running back, like at all. And a part of me wants to go running back, like a Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. And you could do that, or the Corum guy from Michigan, or that one guy from, I believe the school Taylor went to.
Wisconsin.
What's his name? He looks just like Jonathan Taylor. He plays just like him, too.
And I knew his name, too. I'm upset that I don't right now. But I know who you're talking about.
But running back...
Braylon
Allen, another guy who I could see looking really good in a Cowboys uniform. Not in the first round, but in the second round, I definitely could see him being a big name. But looking at it, I'm just going to have to go with tackle here, Talise Fanuga or whatever. I'm at Oregon State. I'm going to pick him, even though I really want to go running back, and I do think they need a corner really bad, but they just picked 2 straight corners who I wanted to go at here at this pick. But I'm going to take tackle. I think Terrence Smith is gone for them next year, so they're going to have someone who's going to need to take his spot, and give me Fanuga from Oregon State.
That just made my pick a lot easier because if you're Green Bay, offensive line is what you need to load up on. losing John Runyon and cutting David Bakhtiari this offseason. I think with the Packers' state of their offensive line, I think this is a clear-cut pick for Green Bay right now. Jackson Powers-Johnson, the center out of Oregon, he is a rock for that offensive line. Easily the best center prospect in this draft, not even close. He's going to fit perfectly in that Green Bay Packers scheme. Gives Jordan Love a new young center to grow with, and I think that's going to be a great pick there for Green Bay at 25.
For the Bucs at 26, one thing that they do have or do not are starting to lose is their linebacker core, because their linebacker core is starting to get a little old. And you know who's sitting right here? The best linebacker in the draft, Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State. I've seen some film on him. He's like that. He's like
solid.
that for real. He has the speed. He has the wrap-up ability. He's going to get you down every time. I think he'll really be the next best Bucs linebacker in the future.
And for pick 27, the Cardinals, obviously, they did go offense with their fourth pick. We had them picking Marvin Harrison Jr., and here I'm going to have them sticking with offense. They need offensive linemen, either guard or center. They probably are going to go one of those two guys with this pick, and I'm going to have them take Zach Frazier out of West Virginia, the center, to go and be their day one starter over there in Arizona.
Okay, like that. I like that.
So over the past few weeks, the Bills have sold a lot. Well, over this past whole offseason.
Safe to say.
Stephon Diggs, obviously, he was traded to Houston. You easily have to get a wide receiver here, not even close. And good thing you have three great studs right here at wide receiver, Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., and Trey Franklin. For me, I think the best scheme fit for this Bills team is going to be Trey Franklin. I think Trey Franklin is the best out of these three wide receivers, and I think he's a guy that probably has that upside to be that wide receiver one day. Obviously, that's not going to be this year, but I mean, it could be, but he's not going to but he probably has the most upside out of these three to be a top 10 wide receiver one day. So I think that's a perfect destination for Trey Franklin, Buffalo at 28.
For the Detroit Lions, I think one thing you want to do is get another guy opposite of Aidan Hutchinson. Aidan Hutchinson is already a dog in and of himself.
I agree.
But you want another one. And there's another dog in this class. His name is Chop Robinson. I think Chop Robinson is one of the best edge rushers in this class.
Chop Robinson, Aidan Hutchinson
That's
duo.
what I'm trying to tell you. If they can get him and they put Aidan Hutchinson and Chop Robinson on the opposite sides of each other, that's 30 sacks apiece. I mean, not apiece. That's 30 sacks combined just from the two of them alone, I feel like. So I feel like that's the pick they really need to go with, or at least hope that he's there.
Yeah, and for the Ravens, at pick 30, kind of their issue in towards the end of the season is their defense a little bit. Their cornerbacks are slipping, and one thing that's kind of given them issues the past few seasons is injuries in the cornerback room. So I have them taking Mike Chernosky still. I don't know how to say that name. The cornerback from Michigan, the reigning national champions. Give me him to go to the Ravens.
The 49ers are in an interesting spot here, but yet again, they need offensive line, and they get offensive line here in this section. I think I'm going to go with Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. I think Tyler Guyton's one of the most underrated tackles in this draft. He definitely has the upside to be a top 3 tackle drafted this year. So I think Tyler Guyton's a great fit for San Fran, and I think it'd be an amazing pickup for San Francisco here to get him at 31.
The Kansas City Chiefs are smiling ear to ear right now because there is one wide receiver that is still here that I've seen go as high as 10.
I know who it is.
And that's Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh, I was thinking of Adonai Mitchell.
Adonai Mitchell. I've never seen Adonai Mitchell top 10.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen him top 10. But who I have seen is Brian Thomas Jr. You pair him with Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, my.
6'3", go downfield, catch the ball verticality. Oh, my goodness. Don't even get me started.
The Chiefs have to go receiver here.
They have to go receiver. I think Troy Franklin will be there for him, or Brian Thomas Jr. Or even Keon Coleman's still here. Don't forget about Keon Coleman, the physical freak that he is.
I think he's the best receiver that's going to come out of the second round. I don't think he goes round 1, but I think he will be the best receiver.
Him
in
or
round 2.
Leggetti. I
really like Xavier Leggetti.
But I do
Leggetti's
think
solid.
Keon I think that's a.
I think it's between. I think Keon Coleman might go 32 to the Chiefs if he's there, or if Brian Thomas or Troy Franklin's gone. But if Brian Thomas or Troy Franklin's there, I think the Chiefs chomp at the bit to get one of those two guys.
Then again, we did this with no trades too. Obviously, trades
There will
will
be trades
happen
all over.
all
And
over
of
the
course,
place.
I believe next week, in our first ever Zoom episode, most likely Zoom
We'll
episode.
recap it. We'll
recap it. We'll talk about it, and we'll kind of touch on stuff. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? So stay tuned for the after draft special, episode 24, coming out next week. But staying in this episode 23, let's switch topics now to a sport that's going on and having a playoff. The playoffs are going on in the NBA, and let's talk about it. Obviously, last week, as you heard, we made our picks, and we're going to be touching on that as we look at what's going on so far. So I'm not going to recap every single game, but I am going to recap the current series standings for all these teams. But as we look at it right now, starting in the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers are in a series lead 2-0 over the Orlando Magic. Of course, I believe all of us picked Cleveland to win this series.
Yes.
But
Not in the sweep.
I did not think the Magic would come out and be the worst team in the playoffs.
Worst
Magic,
offensive team in the playoffs.
well, yeah, the Magic cannot score.
They cannot score.
It's to a point where they can't at all, and I'm quite confused because if you look at this most recent game, 96-86 was your final score, and Dwight Howard was not the starting center for the Orlando Magic. What is going on with the Orlando Magic? You look at it, obviously Paolo had 21 points, Franz Wagner had 18, but other than that, Gary Harris 14, Miles Wagner 12. No one else is stepping up. No one is.
Really
at
not.
all.
I mean, other than your two stars, Franz and Paolo, you're not really getting much production from anywhere else. And Jalen Suggs just got hurt in your last game, who's your best perimeter defender.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he had the Donovan Mitchell assignment.
Yeah.
Now Donovan Mitchell still dropped 30 a game, but he's still a great defensive guard to have. And him going down, now you got to put maybe I don't know, Markelle Fultz.
Well, that's the thing that I don't understand. The Magic are not using Fultz. He played 6 minutes in this game, and it was in garbage time.
Yeah, that's
Why
a good
is
question.
Marco Fultz not playing? I understand he's not the number one pick everyone thought he once was, but don't get me wrong. I believe Marco Fultz, if you look at this roster, A to Z, is your best perimeter defender if Suggs is hurt and won't play Game 3.
I don't know. I'm assuming it's because his offense still isn't where you'd like it to be. But I've seen players go out there.
20 and 10 at some point this season.
He was.
Started.
I don't know what happened. Sometimes the games get ahead of you. You don't get to watch as many Magic games as you want to.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
in some games I've tuned into, Markelle Fultz, he's not the best offensively, but he's still solid enough, and he's good enough on defense to where he should get minutes.
yeah. I mean, I like Cole Anthony. Don't get me wrong.
Cole Anthony's a defensive liability sometimes.
But 0 points, 5 rebounds for your backup point guard is not the stats.
Especially
you want.
a backup point guard is supposed to only be out there to get buckets.
Yeah, his
That's
point
Cole
is to
Anthony's main-
score the ball.
It's to score the
because
ball.
defense is not for him, and he didn't do that. So I think Marco Fultz should be that backup point guard there. But being down 2-0, I mean, I don't see any imaginable where this series doesn't end in 5. I don't see it. I only see the Magic winning one.
I only see it ending in 5 at this point.
I mean, I like to give every team a game in a series,
Mhm.
but this
series,
to me
this
looks like a sweat.
performance is bad.
Yeah, I mean, we said the Magic weren't ready, but man.
I mean,
mean-
defensively they're still like that.
Huh?
I mean,
they haven't let up more than 100 points in a game yet.
Defense leads to offense, and they haven't done that.
Here's the thing that I have with the Magic. I think it's youth or experience. I think Paolo, a 21-year-old, being your first option, who's really not really known as a scorer. He can kind of do it all, but he's not a predominant scorer. You look at other teams that are young in this playoffs. You have the Thunder with Shea, but Shea's kind of been here before. But Shea is also a glorified scorer. Paolo isn't. Plus, it doesn't help that Paolo is being guarded by one of the best defensive fours in the league in Evan Mobley. So if Paolo gets shut down, who else is going to score? Franz Wagner, he's been putting in some good work this series, but then again, not efficiently, also averaging 3 or 4 turnovers so far in these 2 games. Outside of Paolo and Franz, who aren't playing well, it's nobody that's stepping up right now. Obviously, they're going to have, their games on defense. That's what they're here for. That's why they're in the playoffs. But like you said, defense leads to offense, but it's not clicking for the Magic right now. If they don't win this game 3, I think if they don't go 2-0 at home these next 2 games, game 3 and 4, it's done. And I could potentially see this being a sweep, which no one really thought. But now
mean-
seeing how these first 2 games went, it's starting to look like a
Well,
sweep.
I'd like to agree. I think if they don't win Game 3, I think it's over. I think Game 3 is the
Yeah.
most important game of their season because if you go down 3-0, no one's ever came back from that, and I'm sorry, Orlando fans, you ain't going to do it. So I think Game 3 is a must-win
Yeah.
for them.
I feel like that too. I just don't know how they're. Obviously, they're going to go into home court advantage. And maybe that gives them a little boost to their offense. Have the crowd behind them a little bit.
Being down 2-0 in the
I know.
series is so hard because you didn't do your job. You went over there to Cleveland and you lost both your games.
Both your games.
And it's just the confidence is hard. And as we saw, a lot of teams are down 2-0.
A lot of
And there's
teams
only
now,
2
too.
that aren't.
Yeah.
So a lot of teams are in the same situation. It's just really difficult. And I think next year is going to be the year of the Orlando Magic, but I still think they're a year
I do
away.
too.
Yeah, nobody was really expecting them to be here except
Me.
for you. Yeah, I was going to say.
I knew
But-
they'd be here.
But nobody was really expecting them to get this far, let
Yeah.
alone make the playoffs, let alone make noise in the playoffs. Obviously, they haven't made any noise in the playoffs.
What they're
but
doing is unprecedented for that franchise.
Oh, yeah.
For what they've done. Obviously, they made the playoffs a few times in the past.
They made the finals, right?
Well,
Didn't
Dwight?
Dwight? Yeah.
Yeah, they made the finals with Dwight and Shaq, and
And
lost
Shaq.
both. Yeah.
Were they both to the Lakers?
Huh?
They lose both games to the Lakers? No. Who did Shaq lose to?
Oh, he lost to the Rockets.
He lost to Hakeem? That sucks.
Yeah. That's
Anyway.
whenever the Rockets had that 2-year little grace period when Jordan
when
retired.
Jordan retired? Yeah.
Yes. But moving along now to another game going on, another series going on in the Eastern Conference playoffs. The New York Knicks taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. And prior to getting into this, whatever Joel Embiid is on, I feel sorry for that man. They have him pumped up on so much stuff. He can't even blink out of one of his eyes.
Have you
It's
seen him run?
Scary.
He can't run. He
He
can't.
can't
He's so
run.
messed up. The 76ers are single-handedly burning their franchise by attempting to beat the Knicks in this series. This 76ers team is not ready. And going into it, just looking at this game 2 here, we're not going to look at game 1s, but looking at this game 2, the Knicks win 104-101. And we saw a double bang in this one.
Dante DiVincenzo.
Dante DiVincenzo having whatever, I messed up his name, but had 19 points in this one and hit 2 really clutch threes at the end to win this game. Here, Jalen Brunson did his thing, but I would
Yeah.
say 24 points. He did shoot the ball poorly.
He
but-
shot the ball really poorly.
Okay, but I would say the star of this game and the single reason they won this game, the Knicks, is Isaiah Hartenstein.
Oh, yeah.
He
I
has
said that from the
single-handedly
beginning.
earned himself so much money this offseason, it's not even funny. He's strong, he gets rebounds, and he blocks shots. He had the game-winning block, and he's the single reason the Knicks won this game because he got
Had
the
that
rebound
offensive rebound.
and dipped it out. So Hartenstein is the player of this series so far, and the most disappointing player of this series is Kelly Oubre. 4 points. You're supposed to be the X factor for the 76ers team. Obviously, he's on a minimum level contract, so you don't really think of that. But how he's been playing this season, he should be stepping up. 4 points is inexcusable. If he has anything more, they win this game. I think the 76ers are about to get swept.
I think the entire 76ers roster, except for Maxey and Embiid, have been disappointing. I mean, Budward, 2 points, 15 minutes.
I could have told you that could have happened.
Tobias Harris, 10 points. Kelly
Hey.
Oubre, you said 4. Kyle Lowry, 8. You're not expecting Kyle Lowry to go out there and score. Nick Batum, 6.
So in this one, Aidan was the only person who picked the Knicks.
Yeah.
He had a vision.
Aiden's looking up strong. He has currently the favor over us. But I think it goes as simple as this. There's one guy in this series that has been the man, I think, the glue guy. And I think you both know who I'm about to say. Josh Hart.
I was going to
Is-
say Bojan Bogdanovic.
Hey, shout out Bogey. It's my guy. But 6 points in this one. But Josh Hart played all minutes in this game. 48, 21 points, and 15 rebounds as a small forward shooting guard. How tall is he? 6'4"? 6'5", 6'4", something like
6'5".
that. So Josh Hart,
Tom Thibodeau's a madman.
he's a goon. I feel bad for Josh Hart, but
Not,
not sitting him at all.
I remember-
Not
I
even
remember
like a
me and-
minute before halftime.
me and Aidan were watching the game, and we were listening to the call. I don't know who the announcers were, but we listened. And when the announcer said it was like 5 minutes left in the fourth, Josh Hart has not sat a single second of this game. Me and Aidan looked at each other like there's
what?
no way
Yeah.
Josh Hart has not sat a single minute of this game. And it was only 5 minutes left, so we knew he wasn't going to go out at that point. And I was like, yeah, Tom Thibodeau's a madman.
Hey, but he's been the X factor in this series by
Hartenstein
far.
He
and
is.
Hart have been the X factor.
I
Yeah.
mean, 22 points in game 1. Obviously, he's going to get his rebounds, which does help over a great rebounding team in the Sixers. I don't know. I think the way it's looking right now, I do think the Knicks take this series in 6. I do think the Sixers take a couple games.
No,
I mean,
it was if the
both
Sixers
of these
didn't lose
games
the
have been
ball.
close.
Well, I mean, I agree. I would say Maxey got fouled twice on that.
Maxey did get fouled twice.
But I think the Knicks are going to get swept. If not the Knicks. I think the 76ers will be swept in this series. I don't see the Knicks losing any games in Philly. After seeing Joel Embiid and him basically not being able to jump and dunk because he's that messed up on stuff, they need to sit him immediately or his career is going to be over very fast. I don't know what they're doing. But it's
and they're
crazy.
just trying to rush him back. It's just playoff nature.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it's playoff nature, but I mean, this ain't your year, Philly. You ain't gonna go win it, even though there's people thinking it's a 1 seed disguised as a 7. I mean, it's just I don't know.
It's crazy that he had 34 on like half a knee though.
Yeah, I mean, Joel Embiid is insane. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, he's
but
insane.
I'm just looking forward to next year because I don't think Philly's gonna win it this year.
No, because I was talking to Aidan. There's no way. Like he's this banged up right now. How does he get through 3 more
Yeah,
series?
I mean,
I think he could get through the second round, but you're not going to tell me he's going to go and beat Boston in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
Like you think he's going to be able to battle through it? Let's say he somehow does, and then Eastern Conference Finals, he has to go play Boston in Boston. I mean,
and then in the finals, he might have to play like Denver.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
what?
Sorry, it's over. It's hard being hurt and being in a situation like this where you're the key of the team and all that. So, I'd like to see some 76ers wins, but looking at it right now,
I think if the 76ers but other players other than Maxey and Embiid show up, I think they steal a couple and steal both in Philly. Really, not steal.
24/7 Hill or whatever his name is on Twitter, his little burner account. If he can have more than 2 points and actually do what he's supposed to do in this league, which is shoot threes, maybe they could win a game or two. But
yeah,
hey, shout out Buddy Hill for doing a bunch of nothing. Moving along now to the Western Conference side of things, as the Nuggets took on the Lakers. And the Lakers in this game had a 20-point advantage at one point, but this game came down to the wire, and there's a man over there in Denver who's a bad man. He struggled in this one, but he's clutch. He has ice in his veins in the fourth quarter. I'm not talking about D'Angelo Russell. Give me Jamal Murray. In this game, he had a step-back jumper over Anthony Davis to win the game. I jumped out of my seat. I bet you guys did too.
Sure,
I mean, it was just
course.
a phenomenal shot. Murray struggled in this one, but man, this looked like the Lakers' game to win, and they still couldn't do it.
I mean, LA was in front from the get-go.
Yeah,
I mean,
they just came out with motion. They came out pushing the pace, and they got up.
I mean, they were. I think I remember in the first quarter they were up 15 at one point. I think they were up 27-12 at one point. You know, kind of kept that consistent 17, 15, 20-point lead into halftime. And then that third quarter by the Nuggets, something just surged right out of the locker room. The crowd got into it. The players got into it.
It's the Mike Malone effect.
They surged the comeback. They weren't really, touching the lead in the third quarter, but they made I think they were only down 8 going into the fourth quarter, something like that. So they weren't there yet, but they were definitely making some progress towards the lead. And then, like you said, Jamal Murray in the fourth quarter played like absolute trash all game. But then in the fourth quarter, he decided to step it up, hits a few clutch mid-ranges. He had one over LeBron. Obviously, he had one over AD to win the game. Had a few layups. I think he had 12 in the fourth quarter as well. The biggest thing for me in this game, the way this game closed out, was just execution for the Lakers. I mean, they played so well to close out the game. It's just the Nuggets were playing better. I don't really know how else to describe it. I mean, LeBron James was hitting threes. He was hitting
fourth
his
quarter
layups.
LeBron. He was doing something. He was getting to the
He
cup.
had 14 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was getting to the
Missed
cup.
the one
he
that
was,
mattered most, though.
He did. Yes,
and then he had, like you said, missed the one that mattered most right at the top of the key to take the lead.
Wide
he
open.
misses it.
Clank.
Denver doesn't
No timeout.
decide
They
to take the
said, nah.
timeout. They
Jamal
just said
Murray.
let Jamal Murray do his thing.
He
He's been
did.
doing it all quarter.
Man.
Does his little hezzy to the right. I thought he was about to pull that three. Drives in on Jamal Murray, steps back one more time, and nails it. Oh, my gosh. That was ridiculous. I couldn't even imagine being a Nuggets fan at that game.
Imagine being there.
That's a lifetime memory right there. And the funny thing about this is Jamal Murray didn't even see it go in. He just
fell back.
He fell back. There was someone in front of him, and he said in a post-game interview he didn't even see it go in. He just heard the crowd react, and that's how he knew it went in, which is insane. A crazy way to win. But I don't know. In this series, I had the Nuggets in 5. I said on this podcast, I still think that happens. I think they split in LA, and then whenever they go back to Denver in Game 5, that's when they take the series. But, I mean, Lakers, they were up 20 and numerous times in the series in Game 1 and Game 2, I believe. So, I mean, they're there. They just need to close it out. Obviously, Denver is probably one of the hardest teams to close out a game against, probably the hardest team to close a game out against. And they came back to bite them. This is going to be a fun series to see how LA responds to that loss.
Yeah, I would definitely say LA is a must-win situation in Game 3. I think if they lose that, like in any of these teams down 2-0, I think they're done. No teams came back from being down 3-0. It won't happen now. It won't happen. Didn't happen then. It won't happen now.
I think it's really a difference between coaches. You see how good
Darvin
Michael
Ham
Malone
sucks,
is. It's like this is the difference between a championship coach and a regular coach.
I mean, that tells you everything because the Nuggets came out in that second half and just had so much more poise. Than
They made adjustments.
They made adjustments.
Yes, we did make adjustments.
Said, nah.
The Los Angeles Lakers.
If I heard my coach say in a press interview, how do you stop Jokic? And he says,
You don't.
I don't know.
You pray.
Wow, coach. Thanks.
It's not like you have like the best defensive center in the league at times in Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, if Anthony Davis can't stop Jokic, I mean, it's either the scheme what LA is running is the worst scheme, or no one can.
Well, I think it's crazy because the Lakers in both games, their scheme in like the first half works every time.
Then just go against
and then
it.
the Nuggets come out in the halftime, they adjust to it.
They adjust.
And then
the Lakers
try and run the same scheme like over and over again. And it doesn't work because they made adjustments and they don't switch out of it. So I just don't. Darvin Ham,
he needs to get fired.
He does need to get fired. At first I was like, I didn't know Lakers fans were like talking about like why they were like,
hey,
trying
they're
to get him
putting
fired.
Darvin Ham with people like they're putting his picture next to like the worst people in America, like not America, just history.
Yeah,
like Hitler,
God.
Hitler and Darvin Ham are in the same picture with Laker fans.
Lakers fans hate Darvin Ham with a passion, and I can see why now.
Oh, for good reason.
But
I can see why.
I mean, hey, I could be a coach in LA and go win 5 straight championships, and then Game 3 of this series, they do the same to me. Any coach that will coach in LA will get exiled. It just is just bound to happen.
how it
It's
goes.
either it happens early or it happens later. It's happened to every coach, and it will always happen to that coach because it's the LA rub. It's
Yeah, I
just
bet
how it is.
even Phil
But hey,
Jackson got participated.
shout out to D'Angelo Russell and his Discord. Russell, he did respond to the haters in this game, 23 points, but
Didn't get a win.
Looks like those extra shots after Game 1
Really paid off.
actually worked.
hey, Rui, 38 minutes, 3 points.
Running laps.
He was
Running
getting his cardio in. But moving along now to another series in the Western Conference playoffs, and it's a series I predicted to a T. All you guys said I was silly, said I didn't know what I was talking about. But there's a team in this playoffs that I knew was frauds, and it's the Phoenix Suns, a team I predicted would lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5. And I don't even think they're going to win a game this series. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are dominating. Anthony Edwards is showing that this will be his league in a few years. He is man. Anthony Edwards is a bad man. And he only had 15 points in this game, too, here. But they were clutch 15 points on Kevin Durant. And he talked his talk and walked the walk. 8 assists also for Edwards. One big thing for me, how about Jaden McDaniels?
But we got Jaden McDaniels.
Hey,
they have Kevin
they got
Durant,
KD.
but we got Jaden
Hey,
McDaniels.
Jaden McDaniels had outperformed Kevin Durant in all statistical categories while guarding him all day. Jaden McDaniels, 25 points, 8 rebounds in 41 minutes. He played phenomenal. He was the best player on the court for the T-Wolves in this game, other than Anthony Edwards. Offensively, I mean, his ability on those catch-and-shoot shots were good. And Durant, 18 points, Nurkic had 10, Bill had 14, and Booker had 20. If that tells you anything, just 18 points for Kevin Durant, you ain't going to win no series doing that. I'm sorry. And Booker, 20 points, Bill, 14. All those guys, if they're going to want to win this series, they're going to have to do a lot. But let's just look at the bench scoring for the Suns. 15 points by Eric Gordon, who is like 80 years old, by the way. Drew Epskitz or Epsbanks or whatever.
Eubanks.
Eubanks. I've never said his name. Looked
Drew
at him.
Eubanks.
Never said his name. Nazir Litter had 5 as well. So no one else on that bench. And they only had 3 guys who really even played minutes, not including Little. He didn't even play until the final 2 minutes.
No, it was just Gordon, Eubanks, and O'Neal.
And nothing. They did nothing. And the bench for the T-Wolves, I mean, their bench didn't really do much either, but It really didn't. That is crazy. Both these teams had 8-man rotations. Wow, that is something. Well, my point's kind of invalid. But Gobert had 18, Cat had 12, McDaniels had 25, and Conley and Edwards both had over 15. And the same didn't happen for the Suns, and that's why they picked it up. I think the T-Wolves will sweep the Phoenix Suns in this series.
This is such a close series because, I mean, obviously the Suns have probably a top 3 starting lineup in the NBA.
No, not even top 10.
Whoa.
All right, well, like
Not even top 10?
The Suns are bad.
Bench,
Beal's
baby.
not good.
the bench, they're just way too top heavy. That's what was going to be my
Trading
point.
for Beal's so good. It was just
No,
not.
it was awful.
It was bad.
Here's
Why?
the thing. Here's the thing with what I was about to say with the Suns. I picked the Suns in 6 in this series just because of how well they match up against the Timberwolves. But, I mean, they swept them in the regular season, 3-0. None of the games were really necessarily close. I thought that was going to kind of leak into the postseason. But it looks like the Timberwolves figured that out, what they did wrong in those games against the Suns. And in playoffs, it's really all about depth. Everyone's going to have that one random player that's not a star, like Jaden McDaniels, that's going to step up. Obviously, he's not a bench player. But I just don't think the Suns have the depth to hang in with the other teams in the West now. I mean, after seeing how these two teams have, or seeing how the Suns at least have performed in these first 2 games, it's been bad. They don't have anyone outside of KD, Booker, and that's it. I don't even think Bradley Beal's playing that well. I think he's not living up to that hype that he was traded to be, especially, the state of the team that they risked for Bradley Beal, how much money they're paying him, what assets they had to give up, what picks they had to give up. It's bad. It's awful. This Suns team hasn't shown any signs of life in this playoffs. Kevin Durant was consistent in game 1, shot the ball very efficiently. Second game was held to less than 20 by Jaden McDaniels. I mean, I just really don't know where this Suns team goes from now on in this series. They're going back home for game 3 and 4. If the Timberwolves take one of these games, it's series over. I don't think the Suns come back and win it in 7. But for right now, they got to win now. And if they don't win this game 3 and maybe even game 4, I think it's wraps for them. And you could argue they could blow it all up after this season.
Yeah, if you were to tell me
the next season.
If you were to tell me that Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards didn't score over 20, I thought that the Timberwolves would have got blown out. But in this game, it's literally the opposite. They didn't get blown out. They won by 12. I mean, what can you say about Jaden McDaniels that hasn't already been said? He is the X factor for the Timberwolves. He has been all season. If he's on, there's not really anybody beating the Timberwolves because Cat's usually going to be on. Anthony Edwards is usually going to be on. Rudy Gobert dropped at 18 on Yusuf Nurkic, who's not a bad defensive center at all. Pretty impressive to me. But like you said for the Suns, that bench unit is god-awful.
Yeah.
God-awful. I thought them signing Isaiah Thomas was going to do something. I don't know why I thought that.
Didn't.
I don't know why I thought that.
I saw a tweet that said Isaiah Thomas should start and they should move Bradley Beal to the bench.
Honestly, that's not even a bad idea because Bradley Beal could be an X factor off the. Flamethrower
Isaiah
off the
Thomas
bench.
starting in 2024 in the playoffs is even more.
But
crazy.
he can guard. Mike Conley's like 6'1" with shoes on. I mean, he can somewhat
Isaiah
stand
Thomas
for
is
Mike Conley.
5'9" with shoes on.
I think I was like 5'10", 5'10 and a half with shoes on.
No, he's a little fella. I mean, yeah, the Timberwolves are going to win this series.
Timberwolves are going to win the series.
It's not even close. One thing I would say, Gobert having 18 points. He really they helped. Nurkic helped a lot on Edwards attacking.
Yeah.
And Edwards dished down to Gobert. That's how we got those 8 assists, and that's how Gobert scored 18. But moving along now to the 2 series that have tied series so far. So all the series we talked about prior, all are 2-0 in the leading team advantage. So let's stay in the Western Conference here as the Dallas Mavericks are taking on the LA Clippers. The Mavericks won Game 2 96-93. And in this game, Kawhi Leonard did play, and he played 35 minutes, but only scored 15 points. Paul George had 22 points as well. James Harden had 22, but Russell Westbrook didn't necessarily have the best offensive performance, even though he had 9 rebounds. And just Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving were too much. One thing I've noticed in this series, the center play for Dallas has been poor, but Derek Lively came off the bench and stepped it up, and I think he is the X factor on why Dallas won Game 2.
Yeah, this was after the abysmal performance offensively for Dallas Game 1, everyone knew it was uncharacteristic, but there were thoughts that were like, yo, this series might not be the series we thought it was going to be. And Luka and Kyrie proved that statement wrong in Game 2. They both showed out. Luka, I mean, there is nothing really. I mean, how do I word this? There's not much you can say about how good he is. I mean, he shot the ball so poorly in this one, but whenever it gets in those final 5 minutes of the game, he turns it on. This was a 6-point game with 3 minutes left, or less than that. I think it was a 6-point game with a minute and a half left. He hits a step-back three right in Paul George's mouth to go up 9 with a minute and a half left, kind of putting the dagger, the nail in the coffin there. But, wow, this series, I mean, Kawhi playing too. I mean, you'd think it would probably be a Game 2 win for the Clippers, even with Kawhi. Luka proved that wrong. This is going to be the dogfight that we thought it was going to be.
For sure. I mean, Luka was pissed off all night. He was pissed off at the refs. He had a technical foul. He was pissed off at the fans. He was yelling at the fans. He was pissed off at all the Clippers players. He was yelling at the Clippers players. I mean, a mad Luka is not a Luka I want to see in a playoff series.
Especially not the playoffs.
He only sat for 2 minutes this game, 46 minutes, and he had 32 points. Right now in the league, I don't know if there's another guy that I'm taking in the league right now. Y'all can disagree with me on this.
What, than a mad Luka?
No. I'm not taking. I don't know if I'm taking anybody else right now to hit a clutch shot than Luka Doncic. I don't know if I'm taking anybody else over him.
That's pretty valid.
Okay, I didn't know if y'all had another name in mind.
I mean,
you could argue Steph.
Still right? Yeah, right now I still say Steph.
You could argue
Steph or Shea.
You could argue Shea. You could argue Jamal Murray. I mean, he's the
playoff. Murray is.
I mean, honestly, Jamal Murray has hit the most clutch shots in the playoffs the past few seasons than anyone else.
That's true.
But I would agree.
I would say Luka is the best, though. Yeah.
I mean, that shot they hit in front of it was James Harden, right? Like,
it was James Harden.
It was James Harden. It was the last one last night, and the way he turned around and yelled at the fans in the front row, you knew that he wanted to win this game very badly. He wants to win this series very badly. And, I mean, the Mavericks showed up tonight. I mean, not tonight. Last night, defensively and offensively. I think they go back and win it, at least one in Dallas.
So Jalen, you picked the Mavericks in 7. Both me and Aidan picked the Clippers in 7. So both of us have the series going to 7. And so I think.
Yeah, I'm lone wolfing it right here. I'm lone wolfing it.
Yeah.
Y'all tried to sleep on the Mavs. Luka Doncic's gonna come and put y'all down.
Okay, well we'll see Game 3. We'll be talking about next week. But I definitely think this series is going to go to 7. I still think that in my head is definitely.
But Kawhi wasn't 100%. I don't know how he'll look next game. That kind of scares.
Yeah, and especially going back now to Dallas, it'll be interesting to see.
It'll be interesting to see.
That as well. But moving along now to the final playoff series that we're going to cover here. Going back to the Eastern Conference, Game 2 here against the Indiana Pacers taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. In this game, well, it was just a blowout, domination from front top to bottom. The Pacers won big, 125-108. Probably the best player in the playoffs so far has been Pascal Siakam. He's leading the playoffs in points per game and rebounds. I think he's up there in rebounds, not first, but he's definitely up there. I think total rebounds, I think he has that, I believe. But he's been dominating. He had 37 points in this game. Damian Lillard had 26 points at halftime in this game too, but finished with 34. Brook Lopez also had 22 points. Chris Middleton had 15. Not too much help off the Milwaukee bench. They did go deep into their bench, though, having 4 guys playing over 10 minutes. And the Pacers kept it short, having only 8 guys get minutes throughout most of the game. My key X factor in this game is going to be guard Andrew Nembhard. For the Pacers, he is their shooting guard, and he stepped up. I would say he's a really solid perimeter defender. He looked good. He guarded Dame for most of this game, and in the second half, he played really good defense. Also had 20 points for the Pacers. So the Pacers in this series, I mean, I think they're going to win this series in 5 if Giannis doesn't come back.
Here's the thing with this series. It's Giannis. It really depends when he comes back. Here's what I have to say about this series. Benedict Mathurin was a guy who averaged 20 points against the Bucks in the regular season. You sacrifice Benedict Mathurin for Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam against Giannis this year is only averaging 18 points per game. So you're sacrificing Ben Mathurin, who shot very well against the Milwaukee Bucks this season, Obviously, with the Bucks front court being weaker, front court defense being weaker, you sacrifice that for Pascal Siakam, which poses a more difficult matchup if you're the Pacers. I think all Giannis needs to do is if he's back by Game 4, I think this might be Bucks in 7. I think Pascal, this Game 3 for the Pacers is a must-win game. You need to win now while Giannis is out, because once Giannis comes back in, Pascal isn't dropping over 30 again. A guy like Nembhard, like you said, 20 points. I don't think he's doing that for the rest of the series. I don't know. I think as long as Giannis is out, the Pacers will win the series, and I believe probably 5 or 6. But if Giannis comes back in, oh my, the tables are going to turn fast for the Pacers. And Tyrese needs to start getting scoring, because Pascal will not drop more than 30 once Giannis comes back.
I mean, to an extent, I agree with what you're saying. But from all the reports I've heard, Giannis can't even run.
Yeah,
No,
I
he
know.
can't.
Giannis, I don't believe, comes back in this series. I think the Pacers win in either 5 or 6. If Giannis does come back, I would like to agree. But what kind of player are we getting from Giannis?
It's
when
not
he does
100%
come back?
Giannis.
Because if he can't
Yeah.
run right now, what makes it say he can run Friday? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah. Well, he's definitely out Friday
well, what makes it he can run Sunday? I mean,
or Sunday. I don't think if he can't run right now,
I mean, if
he
I
can't,
could,
he can't even run. He can't run scrimmages. He can't run. He can't make cuts. He can't do
all
any of
he
that.
can do is standing jump shots right
Standing
now.
jump shots.
So I mean, I just don't see in any world he plays in this round. And I get it. Damian Lillard is doing everything in his wheelhouse
In
to
the
get
first
this
half.
team in the first half. But that's what he's doing. He's using all his skill in the first half, and being gassed in the second half. Tyrese Halliburton, like you said, Aidan, he struggled offensively when it comes to scoring, but he hasn't really been looking for a shot.
Did he really struggle, or did he just not?
I mean, he shot
shoot?
42% from 3 last night.
I know he missed
He only shot 10 times.
he only shot 10 times,
Uh,
and he was efficient.
He was efficient. I mean, I'm not mad at him for having 12 and 12. I mean, statistically, I think a 20 and 12 game looks better.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to a star player, when you look at stat sheets, yeah. But
Yeah.
if you watch this game, Tyrese Halliburton never looked out of place. He never looked like he was forcing anything. He never looked like he wasn't taking any shots. I do think he should be more aggressive when it comes to his dribble drive game.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever the pick and roll with Miles Turner is open every single time, might as well dish it down to the big fella.
Yeah.
And
I have 2 X factors for this game. One is Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle was catching heat from every person, from Pacers fans to NBA media to even YouTubers I was watching. Because for some reason, in his mind, he felt okay with going to a 5-deep bench lineup with
That was crazy.
with Doug McDermott and Jalen Smith in Game 1. That did not work.
Nah.
So, you know what he did? He cut the lineup down to 8. And guess what happened? That lineup was absolutely efficient with Obi Toppin, Pascal, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, and Aaron Nesmith on the floor. That was a great lineup. Rick Carlisle has earned my respect. He already had my respect, but that first game made him look a little shaky. He is a
Yeah.
Hall of Fame coach for a reason, and I think he continues to do that in the rest of the series. My next X factor, who I think that people are sleeping on, is Miles Turner. Brook Lopez cannot guard Miles Turner.
No.
Brook Lopez in the pick and roll cannot guard Miles Turner.
No.
Not Brook
In the
Lopez.
pick and roll?
No, he can't.
No, he can't.
He can't.
legitimately
He
can't.
legitimately can't.
Miles Turner could score probably on pick and roll every single time. If
Brook
it's just
Lopez-
it's a Halliburton Turner pick and roll with a
Pick and roll,
Lopez
pick and
in
pop.
it.
Lopez is still a good
pick and roll,
defender.
pick
He's
and
not
roll,
fast.
and pick and
He's
pop.
not fast, but he's a good defender.
I'm talking about pick and roll and pick and pop. Like pick and pop, pick and pop, and pick and roll.
Or
Are like
pick and pop, yeah. No, he's not.
Well,
no,
no,
pick and roll as
pick
well.
And roll. Miles
Pick and
Turner
roll as
could
well.
score every single time on Brook Lopez on the pick
He
and
scored
roll.
a lot in the paint on Brook
I think
Lopez
he had
throughout the
16
season.
Yeah.
He had 22
He cooked
tonight,
him.
or last night. But Brook Lopez plays drop coverage every time on a screen. He doesn't. He doesn't come up, and that's free eats for Miles Turner in the mid range or in the 3 every time. And if Brook Lopez does come up to stop Tyrese Halliburton off of the hand, off the roll, Miles Turner on the roll, that's free eats again because Miles Turner is too flexible.
Yeah.
He can get past
And
whatever
we
guard
saw
helps,
Portis attempt to guard Miles Turner last night as well.
and that was free eats.
And that was free.
That
I
was
mean,
barbecue
free is
chicken.
free. So
That was barbecue chicken.
I would like to agree. The X factor I would have to say is Turner. And
If
his-
Giannis comes back and guards Siakam, I think Miles Turner drops a 30 bomb. I honestly
I
believe
could
that.
see a 30 bomb, and I could see
think
Tyrese
he
going back to
has
his
to.
offensive power. Because the main issue, and we saw in the in-season tournament, is, I mean, Giannis basically took away either whoever he was guarding. Either
Yeah.
it was Miles, or at the time, I guess,
Obi Toppin.
Smith or Obi
He's having
Toppin.
guarding Obi Toppin.
So,
I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is the number one scoring 2-man game in the league.
yeah, for a reason. I mean,
For a
it's just-
reason.
It's just Halliburton's a great passer. I do would like to see him get a lot of more scoring, but I don't see this series going over 5. I think Indiana wins.
If
both
Indiana
games.
if Indiana wins Game 3,
I think it's over.
I think it's over.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to try and rush Giannis back for Game 4, and I don't think he's going to be healthy.
I think it all just depends when Giannis comes back. I'm not gonna say Giannis.
We get.
I'm not gonna sit here and say the Bucks are gonna go undefeated against the Pacers when Giannis comes back. But yeah, Giannis won't be 100%. But even his 75%, it still is holding Pascal to at least less than 30 points.
I don't know if they even put Giannis on Pascal.
They do.
I would say so because he's been their best offensive player. I mean,
especially
Giannis
as hot as Pascal Siakam is. I mean, you got to put Giannis on.
But moving along now to 2 games. There's 2 games that tonight have yet to play their game 2. We're recording this on a Wednesday, April 24th. So there's some games happening after this will be recorded. So, of course, you won't know when it's posted tomorrow, but we're just going to look at it now. Game 1, Celtics versus Heat. We're staying in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics dominated this one, 114-94. Jimmy Butler going to miss the series. I think this is going to be a sweep.
Oh, they're going to dominate again.
Yeah, so
sure.
I think we can skip over that. And going now to the Pelicans versus Thunder, this game 1 was actually close. I did not watch this game. I assumed you did, Aidan. So
yes.
you
Start
could
to
probably
finish.
have more uptake. But 94-92 to me looks like a close game, and I did not expect that from these teams.
Yeah, the Thunder, awful performance offensively. Defensively, they were there. They were like that on defense.
2 points?
Josh Giddey, a guy who's put up triple-doubles this season, numerous double-doubles.
2, 3, and 3.
Yeah, he didn't show out in this one, but I think the Pelicans kind of focused on Josh Giddey a little bit just because he's their 4th option, a guy that can drop 15 points any given night. They focused to shut him down. I just think OKC dealt with the same thing a team that we just talked about, the Pacers, dealt with in Game 1. Not shooting the ball efficiently. Obviously, the Pelicans have a good defense. I'm not saying that. But like we saw with the Pacers in Game 1, they had an awful shooting performance Game 1. The Thunder had an awful shooting performance in this one as well. I think they got that first game under the belt. They know a little bit what to expect in Game 2. I think OKC should take this game tonight. I know you guys, if you're listening to this, you'll already know what happens, but I think those pregame jitters got the best of them shooting, and I think the fact that they won is very important for such a young team moving forward.
I definitely think that was the Pelicans' best effort without Zion. That game, they almost won. Probably should have won. That McCollum 3 was barely missed. It looked good out the hand. I don't think this game's particularly close tonight. I think the Thunder come in and dominate from start to finish.
Kind of like how the Pacers did versus the Bucks in Game 2. They kind of came out and were the team we thought we'd see in Game 1.
Yeah.
We did not see the Thunder team we saw all season in Game 1.
Yeah.
I think Game 2.
And the fact that they won, especially being down 4, losing a challenge with less than a minute left, the fact that they came back and won that game, remarkable for such a young, unexperienced team. And I think it's really only up from here. I'm not saying the Thunder are going to sweep this series. Not at all. I think this is a series that could very well go to maybe even 7. I would still probably say the Thunder in 6 right now. But, yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how this game goes tonight, given how much of an outlier Game 1 was.
Yeah, I would definitely have to say that. All of us did pick the Thunder to win this series, so we'll see. It looks like all our predictions are still pretty solid.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at that next week. But now, ending segment time. Here's the last few minutes of the pod. We're going to have an NBA start bench cut for you and then an NFL start bench cut. So let's start with the NBA one to stay in the sport we were talking about. NBA start bench cut. Pascal Siakam, Julius Randle, and Paolo Banchero. Jalen, you can go ahead and start.
Is this for this season or in the playoffs?
This is for if you want them right now in this playoff run. Obviously, Randle is hurt.
Mm-hmm. But we're talking about Randle before he got hurt.
We're talking about right now, not going 10 years down the road because obviously we're all picking Paolo. So
Randle
we're
before he
picking
got hurt.
right now.
Okay.
For this season.
Number 1 is Pascal Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal Siakam is the best offensive player on this list. He's not the best defensive player on this list, but he's still a solid defensive player in general.
Yeah.
So that's why I have Pascal Siakam number 1. Just being the best offensive player by far, I feel like just puts him at the top of that list. Number 2, I'm taking Paolo. I think Paolo is a better offensive player than Julius Randle.
What? That's insane.
That's not insane to say that.
That is insane.
That's not insane to say that. You don't think Paolo's better offensive player than Julius Randle? Buddy, Come on. We've seen how bad Julius Randle is at times.
He's averaging 25 this year.
It's the second option. Paul's the first option. He's getting like
Yeah, imagine if Julius Randle was the first option on
Julius
that
Randle as the
Magic
first
team.
option would probably. I mean, he would average 25 on like terrible efficiency. Julius Randle is inefficient. He also can't shoot threes. He's better this season at shooting threes. He's also in 3-point contests last season for some reason. I don't know what that was for, but I think Paolo. I'm taking Paolo over Julius Randle because I think he's a better offensive player. He's not as good defensively as Julius Randle, but he's still good enough to at least squeak by. As you know, being the first option on the playoff team is why I'm okay. Forget all the offense, defense. Paolo is the best option on the playoff team. Julius Randle is the second best option on the playoff team.
Yeah,
That's why
the first overall pick.
Doesn't matter. I'm taking Paolo because he's the first option on a playoff team, the number 4 seed in the East. That's why I'm taking Paolo.
Okay, well
Julius Randle cut.
if we're talking about who was better before their injury, first of all I'm going to start Julius Randle. I'm starting Julius Randle over Pascal. I said it. I want to be different because I know you guys are probably going to go with Pascal as your starts. I'm going with Julius Randle, almost averaging a 25-point double-double. 25 points, 9.2 rebounds, also 5 assists, shooting the ball efficiently as well, 47% field goal percentage. I mean, he was really good for the Knicks. He was really good for the Knicks before he got hurt. Obviously, Embiid going down was the reason why, the Knicks were the 2 seed. Was that to the Colts?
No. It was just requested to be traded.
Anyway, sorry about that. But I don't know. Julius Randle before his injury, I think we slander him too much. I think just his offensive versatility, being able to shoot the 3 ball, not efficiently all the time. I mean, he was in the 3-point contest for a reason.
For some reason.
For a reason.
Let's not forget about that. But I just think Julius Randle is a better all-around player than both Pascal and Paolo. Obviously, Paolo will get to that point. I think Paolo at his peak will be better than both of these guys. But I don't know, just his ability. I do think Pascal is the better scorer, but I think Randle is the better rebounder, playmaker than Pascal Siakam. For that reason, I'm going to give Julius Randle the nod. If we're talking, obviously before he got hurt. Sitting, obviously, I'm going to sit Pascal. I mean, he's been unbelievable ever since he got traded to the Pacers. I don't know where this Pacers team would be if they didn't even trade for Pascal. Probably in the play-in. We probably would, like Jalen just said, we would probably not even be talking about them playing the Bucks right now. They'd probably be at home preparing for next season, or in Cancun. And then I'm going to cut Paolo. I don't think he's as high of a power guy offensively or defensively than these two guys. I don't know. I just don't think he's there yet. Now, like I just said, I do think he does have the upside to be better than both of these guys in his prime. But I'm going to start Julius Randle. I just think he's the best player overall. I'm going to sit Pascal, and then I'm going to cut Paolo Banchero.
And for me, I'm going to have to go ahead and start Pascal Siakam. As we saw these past 2 weeks for the Pacers, he's been dominant in their first 2 playoff games. 37 points last night in their playoff Game 2 win. 11 rebounds. I'm going to have to give him the easy start. Could it be a little bit of recency bias? You could say that. But I'm going to say Siakam start. I'm going to say bench Julius Randle. Even though he can be a little bit of an inconsistent offensive player, he still gets you 25 every night. And at times it looks really pretty. Other times it doesn't. So I would say bench Julius Randle. And right now, Paolo Banchero is the worst out of these 3. I do think he will be better than all 3 of these guys in years to come. But this is right now. I'm going to say cut Paolo Banchero. But moving along now to NFL start bench cut. We have 2 of them for you. We're going to get through these really quick, though, because we do have things to do. So NFL start, bench, and cut Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, and Jameis Winston.
I'm going to go ahead and start Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl, been there, done that. Obviously, he didn't win it. He lost to Tom Brady in that one, but he's probably had the best career out of these 3 so far. I'm going to go ahead and sit Baker Mayfield. He was, very good this past season. He's kind of had a resurgence in his career. His career in Cleveland wasn't too terrible either. Took that awful team to the playoffs that one year. as the 7 seed or whatever, barely got in, and then I'm going to cut Jameis Winston. This dude has had no success recently like these other two guys have. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start Jared Goff, bench Baker Mayfield, and then cut Jameis Winston.
Flip the list. Jameis Winston starting.
What?
No, I'm joking.
I was about to say.
What?
I'm joking. All right. I feel like this is like pretty easy. It's pretty easy. Jared Goff starts, Super Bowl contender multiple times, went to a Super Bowl, worst Super Bowl of all time, but he still went to one.
NFC Championship appearance this past year, too.
Exactly. Took the Detroit Lions to where they haven't been in 40 years, 50 years. Sitting Baker Mayfield, just off of this recent season, he clears Jameis Winston's almost entire career, just off of this past one season.
Hey, that 30-30 season was insane.
That was a special season for many people. And Jameis Winston, I
Many
gotta cut him.
defenders.
30 touchdowns to 30 interceptions is something that will never be done again in NFL history. And it's not good. It's not terrible. It's awful. And that's what Jameis Winston is.
Yeah, well, I want to be a little different with my selections here. I think if you put Baker Mayfield on the Detroit Lions, they are, if not the same team, or a little better. So I'm going to say start Baker Mayfield. I've rocked with Baker throughout this whole entire
This is the Baker
podcast.
Mayfield Glazer.
I do really like Baker Mayfield. I've liked him since out of college. And I think if you put him in the system in Detroit, he'd be doing the same thing Jared Goff can. One thing about Baker Mayfield that Goff does not have, his ability to scramble and get out of the pocket. Jared Goff kind of can be a statue at times. So that leads into it. I'm going to bench Jared Goff. Still a guy who's been to a Super Bowl. Still, I would say, a top 15 quarterback in this league. I just say Baker Mayfield slightly better than him. And then Jameis Winston, career backup. 30-30 is something that is going to be talked about forever. In the history books, either if it's just to make fun of it or what. He likes to win, too. So, Jameis Winston, a meme player at least, but he had a good few years over there in Tampa Bay. But I'm going to say cut Jameis Winston. And finally, our final NFL start bench cut of this episode, start bench cut bust edition, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Desmond Ridder.
Okay. This is a hard one, but in terms of who's done more, I'm starting Desmond Ridder. I think this past season of Desmond Ridder, even though he got benched like 2 times for Taylor Heineke, I still think he was solid enough. I mean, the Falcons were playoff contenders because their division's weak, but they were in the playoff race for a little bit because Desmond Ridder played solid enough. So I'm going to start Desmond Ridder. I'm benching Zach Wilson. He's done more than Trey Lance. Trey Lance had an opportunity to be a star if he didn't get hurt in that season, the Brock Purdy rookie season. I think Trey Lance would have been nice, but he got hurt. So I'm going to start Zach Wilson. He's been trash, but he's been better than Trey Lance trash.
Bench Zach Wilson.
Bench Zach Wilson and then
Cut
Trey Lance.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go a tad different. Obviously, a lot of these quarterbacks that we're talking about haven't done anything in this league, but the guy I'm about to say who did something this year, I'm going to say start Zach Wilson because he did defeat the undefeated San Francisco 49ers this year, and that is something that none of these guys could say. I know Desmond Ridder won a few games for the Falcons this past season, but Zach Wilson beat the undefeated 49ers. Was it the 49ers or the Chiefs?
It was the
It was the
49ers.
but he almost beat the Chiefs, too.
He almost beat that was on Monday night, I believe, or something like that. But he did beat the undefeated 49ers and almost beat the Chiefs. And I know the season didn't go how Zach Wilson wanted it to go, but out of these three guys, give me start Zach Wilson. The Broncos' new franchise quarterback. I'm joking. And then bench Desmond Ridder. He at least played some. He got a few wins over there for Atlanta. And then bench cut Trey Lance. He's done nothing. I believe he lost his first ever career start to Justin Fields and the Bears. And I don't believe he did much after that. I think he got hurt the next game. So he's now a third stringer over there in Dallas, and I would assume he'll do that for the rest of his career.
I'm gonna go with the same exact thing Jacksen just did for the same exact reason. Zach Wilson has probably made the most noise out of all these quarterbacks in the league. Obviously, he hasn't made much, but he's made noise. And in this list, making noise gets you the start just because of how bad this list is. So I'm going to start Zach Wilson. Desmond Ridder, a guy who actually almost made the playoffs this year. Did he have a loaded defense? Yes. Did he have a generational running back and a generational tight end? Yes.
He did throw to them, though, or give the ball to them.
Yep. But he almost did make the playoffs. I just don't think he's a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. And then obviously I'm going to cut Trey Lance, sitting his first year in the league. Sophomore year, loses his first career start to Justin Fields in that monsoon game. Just an awful performance. Only put up 10 points. And then the very next game, gets a season-ending ankle injury, gets out for the year, and then is traded to Dallas and is now sitting behind Dak. I mean, this dude has only seen the field twice in his NFL career. And I don't know. I mean, as a Bears fan, when scouting for this draft, obviously I follow a bunch of Bears stuff. When it was like, ooh, if we could trade up, what quarterback would you want? Justin Fields, blah, 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 or Trey Lance? I went and seeked out a few North Dakota State Trey Lance highlights, and he was very good. I kind of wish he didn't get injured just to see how he'd turn out, because he was definitely a star in the making. It's just one of those careers that was just haunted by injuries, and it sucks, but he's going to get the cut on this list.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you there. But as always, that's been it for episode 23 of the pod, Michael Jordan edition, if you want to call it.
Michael Jordan, the GOAT edition.
And the GOAT edition of the episode. Obviously, this will be the last episode in studio for us until I believe next August.
Yep.
So it's going to be a little bit of an interesting summer, but we're still going to have content coming out. Make sure to follow us on all social medias, especially TikTok. Having some issues over there for some reason. But we just now started posting YouTube Shorts as well, so check that stuff out. Obviously, Instagram, we post on there almost every day. Having a little bit of issues past few days, figuring out some stuff with the TikTok. That's why a little bit less views or posts, but look to keep that up as well. But it's been fun, and until next time, episode 24 coming out next Thursday. Be on the lookout for that, and as always, until next time.
Yes, sir.
See you.